Hi, everybody. We're going to be looking at solving equations today. They're going to be multi-step equations, and we're going to use a new method called the box method. So our objective today is we are going to solve equations for a given variable. We're kind of keeping that as that equation is balanced by using different visual models on either side. We are going to combine our distributive property and combine like terms methods from seventh grade and sixth grade. We're going to be using the distributive property, which means if we have parentheses and a variable or a constant on the outside, we distribute that or share it with every term inside. So for example, this one, 4 times x, which is also 1x, would be 4x, and 4 times 3 is 12. We're also going to be using combine like terms. If you remember, we combine ones that are the same grouping. We can regroup our expression. So the 4w and the 2w are like terms because they both had the same variable. We put those together, and then the 3 minus 1, we put those together. Some of you might remember this was called the box and circle method from last year. So 4w plus 2w is 6w's, and 3 minus 1 is 2. So the box method consists of this. We're going to try to get everything grouped onto either side. And so it's just a way to kind of keep our balance. Let me see if I can get my pen to work for y'all. Okay, so you can still draw your river if you want to keep everything separated. On the left, I'm going to draw a nice big box. And the right, I'm going to draw a box. And essentially what we're going to do is we're still keeping that theory of the balance, and whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. It's just that now, instead of having lots of steps on our paper, we're going to kind of regroup things. So we're going to go from left to right. Everything, all of our variables, we're going to get marked on, are going to move to our left, and all the numbers are going to be on the right. So that means any variable with a coefficient or no coefficient goes on the left. So I first start with the very first term on the left side of my equation, and I work my way across. So I say 13. 13 is a constant. So since it has to move across the equal sign or across the river, because we're trying to group all the variables together and all of the numbers together to essentially solve for that one solution, which is the one number I can plug in for x to make this equation true. Since that 13 is going to cross over, we're going to do the opposite, which is minus 13. The 5x, and I'm just checking them off as I go to kind of remind myself that I've covered each piece. 5x is a variable with a coefficient of 5, so that's going to stay right on the side where it's at. Oh, it didn't show up very well. Sorry, guys. Let's see if I can get it to show up a little bit better now. Okay, I go to my next piece, which is 2x. It is a variable, so it's going to have to hop to the left side of my equation. So when we cross over that river, because we want to move it and keep it balanced, we have to subtract it. The minus 8 is a number, so it's going to stay on the right-hand side because, again, we're grouping our variables on one side, our constants on the other. So then we go ahead and simplify inside the box. 5x minus 2x is 3x. On the right, negative 13 minus 8, they are same sign, so we add them to get negative 21. So all I've done is I've grouped together my variables and I've grouped together my constants so that I can combine like terms essentially. But I've organized them, and whatever I do to one side, I'm doing the other. So I'm balancing it by moving it to cancel. At this point, I have 3 times x equals negative 21. So I'm going to do the inverse operation, which is to divide by 3, because again, we're trying to solve for x. And negative 21 divided by 3 is negative 7. My second equation, I can do the same thing. I can draw my river. Okay, so just so that you see again how we're grouping, we're going to do variables on the left. We're going to do numbers on the right. And in fact, this method works for every kind of equation. Even if there's variables only on one side, you still can use this box method to set up. Okay, sorry, my pen's kind of crazy today. Okay, so I'm going to go from left to right. 2m, it is a variable, so it stays on the left. Minus 6 is a constant. It's going to cross the other side of the equation, so we want to balance it out. So we do that by the inverse operation, because we typically do two things to balance things out in math. So if it's moving, we also do the opposite sign. 12 is going to stay where it is, and it's positive 12, so we're going to write plus. The minus 4m, it's crossing over, so since it's going to the other side, we cancel on the right by using the opposite operation, or it's the inverse for positive 4m. I combine like terms. 2m plus 4m is 6m. On the right, I have 6 plus 12 is 18. So I end up with 6m equals 18. I divide both sides by 6 for m equaling 3. And again, that's the solution. The solution is the one number that I could plug back in for m into this equation, and it would stay balanced. The left would equal the right. I am going to clear all of this. You guys can pause the video if you want to copy this, and then we will move to the next slide. I'm going to give you one more example today, and I need to clear all of this, and I'm sure there's a faster method, but that's okay. All right, so I'm going to go to one that's a little bit more complex for everybody, which includes that we might have to use the distributive property or combining like terms. So I'm going to move to my next slide. And I'm going to go right here. I'm only going to do one more problem with you guys today. So I'm going to leave my mess over here on the right. And here we go. All right, so I'm going to draw my river. And if you notice this one, the problem is I cannot do the box method until I've reduced it to get rid of those parentheses. There can't be any parentheses, so that first step has to be done without the box. So I'm going to have to first go 7 times a for 7a. 7 times 2 is 14. And remember, a positive times a negative is a negative. On the right, I'm not going to do anything at this point because all I wanted to do is get rid of the parentheses so that I can set up my boxes. Once the parentheses are gone, I can go ahead and set up the box for each side. And again, we're grouping variables on the left, constants on the right. So I'm going to go straight across, 7a. That is a variable. It's going to stay on the left. Draw my line to show you divide the box. Minus 14, we're going to move to the other side. So the opposite of minus 14 is plus 14. 3a is going to cross over. So we're going to do the opposite of positive 3a, which is minus 3a. And the 14 is positive, and it's going to stay right where it's at. I like to put the plus signs there just to help remind me of signs of the numbers. 7a minus 3a is 4a. 14 plus 14 is 28. So 4a equals 28. All I do is take, after I've simplified, I rewrite that last step. That means 4 times something is 28. I'm going to divide both sides by 4. So a equals 7. At this point, you guys can stop the video. You can replay the video. And then there are some practice questions for you to work on today in Google Classroom. Good luck. Please submit a copy of your work and have a great weekend.